What happens when a hard-working waitress risks everything to help a famous celebrity? You won't believe what happens next, but it's a game changer for her future. Stay with us as we reveal how one simple act of kindness turns into a life-altering moment. You don't want to miss this. Before starting this interesting story, if you are new to my channel, hit like, share with your friends, and subscribe for more amazing content. Let's get started. Los Angeles never sleeps, and neither does Ava Mitchell. It is late evening, and the high-end restaurant where she works is buzzing. The sound of silverware clinking, soft jazz playing in the background, and the occasional "Excuse me, miss?" fill the air. Ava moves between tables like a pro, balancing plates, refilling glasses, and flashing polite smiles, even when her feet feel like they are about to quit on her. At 25 years old, she has mastered the art of keeping it together, even when customers get snippy about their steak being exactly medium rare. But this is not just a job to her. Every long shift, every tip, it is all for the dream. She wants to own a soul food cafe one day, a place where the smell of her grandmother's famous cornbread fills the air and every customer leaves with a happy belly and a full heart. But for now, she is stuck under the watchful eye of Mr. Carter, the restaurant manager who seems to have made it his life's mission to make sure nobody enjoys their job. His sharp eyes follow Ava's every move, waiting for the smallest mistake. Too much chatting with customers. He glares, taking a second too long to deliver an order. He sighs loudly. If stress had a human form, it would be this man. Still, Ava keeps going. The regulars love her. The chefs in the back slip her extra bread rolls when Carter is not looking. It is not much, but it helps. And then, it happens. A man in a hoodie and sunglasses walks in, keeping his head low. He does not want attention, but something about him seems familiar. Ava does what she does best. She walks up with a warm smile and asks, "What can I get you tonight?" As he pulls his hood down just slightly, her heart nearly stops. It is Dwayne, "The Rock" Johnson. Ava's mind races. What are the rules here? Is she supposed to acknowledge him? Pretend she does not recognize him? She takes a breath. Be cool. He glances up and smirks. Just a coffee. And that is when Ava's life changes. Forever. The dinner rush had settled into its usual rhythm when the door swung open. A man in a hoodie and dark sunglasses stepped inside, shoulders slightly hunched, moving like someone who did not want to be noticed. Ava had seen all kinds of customers, businessmen, influencers, the occasional B-list celebrity trying to act important, but something about this man seemed different. She grabbed her notepad and walked over, her customer service smile locked in place. "Good evening, what can I get for you?" The man glanced up, and for a second, Ava forgot how to breathe. Dwayne, "The Rock" Johnson, right there, sitting at table 7, acting like he was just a regular guy ordering a sandwich and not one of the most famous people on the planet. Ava's brain scrambled for the right response. Should she act surprised? Pretend she did not recognize him? The last thing she wanted was to be the reason his quiet meal turned into a fan mob scene. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "I will not tell anyone, but it is an honor." Dwayne let out a quiet chuckle. "I appreciate that. Just here for some peace and a good coffee." Ava nodded like a professional, even though her heart was racing. "Black coffee, coming right up." She moved fast, slipping behind the counter and pouring his coffee with the precision of a surgeon. The whole time, she kept glancing over, half expecting him to vanish like a dream. But he was still there, casually scrolling through his phone, like he was not one of the most recognizable faces on Earth. She placed the coffee in front of him, and for the first time that night, felt a tiny sense of victory. She had handled this moment perfectly. But then, it happened. A couple at the far table started whispering. Then a teenager at the booth behind Dwayne froze mid-bite of his burger, eyes going wide. A second later, he was frantically texting. The buzz spread like wildfire. A few phones popped up. A camera flash went off. And just like that, the peaceful meal was over. Before Ava could do anything, her least favorite person in the world stormed in. Mr. Carter. Carter never ran. He walked with the authority of a man who thought he owned the place. But right now, he was moving fast, his face redder than the ketchup bottles on the tables. "Ava," he hissed, grabbing her elbow, "what did I tell you about causing a scene? You let a celebrity sit in the middle of my restaurant without telling me." Ava blinked. I did not cause anything. He just wanted coffee." Carter was not hearing it. "I want him out. Now, before this turns into a circus." Ava glanced at Dwayne. He had clearly heard every word, but his face remained unreadable. Ava took a deep breath. This was the moment, the split-second decision that could change everything, and she had to make it right now. Mr. Carter's face looked like it was about to explode. Veins popping, nostrils flaring, the whole angry boss package. He grabbed Ava's arm, not hard, but just enough to make sure she knew she was in trouble. "What did I tell you about talking to VIP customers?" Ava pulled her arm back, standing tall. She had dealt with Carter's attitude for years, but this was a new level of ridiculous. "I did not do anything wrong," she said, her voice steady. "He just wanted a coffee." Carter scoffed. "You caused a scene." He pointed at the group of customers with their phones out, whispering and snapping pictures. "We lost reservations because of this. You are fired." Ava felt the air get knocked out of her chest. Fired? Over what? Because a celebrity walked into a restaurant and wanted some peace, because she did not throw him under the spotlight. Her hands clenched into fists. "You cannot be serious." Carter folded his arms. "Pack up your things." She could feel the eyes on her. Customers, co-workers, even Dwayne Johnson, who was now standing up from his seat, watching the whole thing unfold. Ava felt her face get hot, from anger, from embarrassment, from everything happening all at once. She thought about arguing, thought about screaming at Carter for being the miserable little tyrant that he was. But what was the point? This was his place, his rule. With her heart hammering in her chest, Ava pulled off her apron and tossed it onto the counter. She turned, grabbed her bag from the break room, and walked out. The cold night air hit her face the second she stepped outside. She stood on the sidewalk, staring at the pavement, trying to make sense of what just happened. She had been working non-stop for years, pulling double shifts, smiling through rude customers, pretending Carter's insults did not bother her. And now it was all gone. Her dream of opening her soul food cafe? How was she supposed to do that now, without a job? She had barely saved enough to cover rent. What was she going to do? Her throat tightened, but she refused to let the tears fall. Not here, not in front of the restaurant. She took a deep breath, trying to collect herself. That was when she heard the door swing open behind her. Someone was following her out, and when she turned around, her heart nearly stopped. Dwayne Johnson, standing right there, and from the look on his face, he was not happy. The next morning, Ava was still trying to process everything. She had spent most of the night staring at the ceiling, running through the whole disaster over and over. Fired, just like that. Years of hard work gone, because she chose to treat someone like a human being instead of a headline. She had no idea what she was going to do next. Rent was coming up, and her savings were nowhere near enough to start the cafe she had always dreamed of. Then came the knock. At first, she thought it was her landlord, because of course, things could always get worse. But when she opened the door, she was met with a man in a crisp suit, holding a business card between his fingers. "Miss Ava Mitchell?" he asked, his voice smooth, professional. She hesitated. Yeah?" The man handed her the card. "I am here on behalf of Mr. Dwayne Johnson. He would like to meet you." Ava blinked. Once, twice, then a third time, just to make sure she was awake. "Is this a joke?" she asked, fully expecting someone to jump out from behind a bush with a camera. The man just gave her a polite smile. "Not at all. If you would follow me, please. Ava glanced down at herself. Baggy sweatpants, an old hoodie, socks that did not match. She was in no way prepared to meet literally one of the most famous people on Earth. But before she could overthink it, she grabbed her shoes and followed the man outside, where a sleek black SUV was waiting. 15 minutes later, she was stepping into a high-rise office that looked like it belonged to a billionaire. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a desk that probably cost more than her apartment, and there, standing by the window, was Dwayne Johnson himself. When he turned, his face broke into a warm smile. "Ava," he said, extending a hand. She shook it, still half convinced she was in some weird fever dream. "I heard what happened after I left," he said, his tone serious. "You stood up for me, and that cost you your job. That is not something a lot of people would do." Ava swallowed. "I just did what I thought was right. And that," Dwayne said, "is exactly why I am here. I want to help you open your cafe." Ava's brain short-circuited. "Wait, what?" He smiled. "I believe in people who do the right thing. Let us make this happen." Ava's hands started shaking. For the first time in her life, her dream did not feel impossible. Ava's dream had become reality. Ava's Soul Bites, her own soul food cafe, had officially opened its doors, and the celebration was everything she had imagined. The place was buzzing with energy, friends and family gathered around, enjoying good food and good company. Lines stretched outside as customers eagerly waited to get a taste of her grandmother's recipe. Dwayne Johnson himself had made an appearance, cutting the ribbon with a big smile on his face, his support echoing throughout the room. Ava couldn't believe it. A year ago, she was scraping by, serving tables in a restaurant that barely noticed her, and now she was standing at the helm of her very own cafe. It was surreal, but the happiness was short-lived. As the evening wore on, a black car pulled up outside her cafe. Ava didn't think much of it at first. Maybe it was just another customer, but as the door creaked open, her stomach dropped. It was Mr. Carter, the same strict manager who had fired her months ago. He sauntered into the cafe, his cold eyes scanning the room and then landing on Ava. His lips curled into a sneer as he approached. "Well, well," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Look who's suddenly successful." He paused, eyeing her with contempt. "I see you're doing well. I want in." Ava's jaw tightened. Was he really here? After all this time, after everything he had done, it was beyond insulting. "You don't belong here," she said, her voice steady, but inside, her anger was starting to boil. Mr. Carter's smile faded. "You stole my restaurant's spotlight. Now, you owe me," he said, his tone sharp, almost threatening. "Give me 50% of your profits, or I'll ruin you." Ava felt her heart race. The nerve of this man. After all the hard work she had put in, he thought he could just waltz in and take what was hers. But she wasn't going to let that happen. She stared him down, trying to keep her emotions in check. She had fought too hard to get here. No one, especially not someone like him, was going to take that away from her. The tension in the room was thick. You could cut it with a knife. Would she give in? Or would this be the beginning of the next battle in her fight for success? The tension in Ava's cafe was suffocating. Mr. Carter's presence alone made the air feel heavy, but the real pressure came when he made his demand. Ava stood her ground, refusing to back down. "You fired me. You don't own me," she said, her voice firm but not loud. She wasn't going to let him control her anymore, not after everything she'd worked for. Carter didn't take kindly to that. His lips twisted into a smug grin. "Big mistake," he said, as if trying to undermine her confidence. "You'll regret this." But before Ava could even respond, the door behind him creaked open, and two intimidating-looking men stepped inside. Their eyes were cold, and their stance made it clear they weren't here for a casual chat. Ava's heart raced. She'd stood up to Carter before, but now it was different. It felt like this was about to escalate into something dangerous. But just as the situation seemed hopeless, The unmistakable sound of an engine roared to life outside. It wasn't just any car, it was a deep, powerful sound. Ava's pulse quickened. Could it be? Then, the door swung open once more. Dwayne Johnson walked in, his towering figure instantly filling the space. His steps were calm, but every inch of him exuded confidence. As he crossed the room, he locked eyes with Carter. "Problem here?" he asked, his voice low and powerful. The room seemed to go still. For a moment, Carter's arrogance faltered. He had been intimidating moments ago, but now, facing Dwayne, he seemed smaller, uncertain. The two men behind him shifted uneasily. Carter tried to puff his chest out, but it was clear he wasn't in control anymore. Dwayne didn't even give him a chance to speak before he leaned in, his voice suddenly dangerous. "Ava's under my protection," he said, his eyes never leaving Carter's. "You want to mess with her? You mess with me." That was it. Ava couldn't believe her ears. Here was Dwayne Johnson, the very man she had helped when she had nothing, standing up for her when it mattered most. His words hung in the air, leaving no room for argument. The silence that followed was deafening. Carter's bravado evaporated, and he took a step back, his face now pale. He tried to salvage his pride by muttering, "This isn't over," but even he knew it was. With a final sneer, Carter turned and walked out, the door slamming behind him. The tension that had gripped the cafe seemed to dissipate the moment he left. Ava could hardly believe what had just happened. With a sigh of relief, she turned to Dwayne, her gratitude written all over her face. He gave her a reassuring smile. "I told you," he said, his voice light again. "I've got your back." Ava's heart swelled with appreciation. Her dream was safe, and she knew now that no matter what, she wasn't alone. A week later, things took a terrifying turn. The peaceful atmosphere that Ava had worked so hard to build was shattered in an instant. The loud, ear-piercing sound of an alarm filled the air of Ava's cafe. Panic set in as masked intruders stormed in, smashing windows and tearing through the place. Ava was in the back, but she quickly rushed to the security room. Watching the footage, her heart sank. She recognized them, Carter's goons. In that moment, Ava didn't hesitate. She picked up the phone and dialed the police. But just as she was about to explain the situation, she saw something that made her breathe a little easier. Dwayne's private security team appeared on the screens, intercepting the intruders before they could do any more damage. The goons were caught, the police arrived shortly after, and Carter was arrested on the spot. The news spread like wildfire. Ava's cafe wasn't just a place for good food anymore. It had become a symbol of resilience. The community rallied around her. Her story of standing up against adversity with the support of Dwayne inspired so many people. Ava's Soul Bites wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. As Ava stood outside her cafe one evening, watching the long lines of happy customers waiting to get in, a sense of pride washed over her. Dwayne walked up to her, a smile on his face. "You okay?" he asked, his tone caring but light. Ava looked up at him, a bright smile spreading across her face. "Better than okay," she said. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." And just like that, Ava's dream was not only realized, it had become something bigger, something that couldn't be broken. The battle had been tough, but she had won. And now, nothing could stop her. The moral of the story is clear. Standing up for what's right may not always be easy, but it will pay off in the end. Ava chose integrity over everything, and look at where it got her. Now here's a question for you. What would you do if you were in Ava's shoes? Would you risk your job to help someone famous? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring stories. I'll see you in the next one.